Let's take a closer look at a legendary racetrack today, the Avus in Berlin. In the early years of the 1900s, Germany was successfully producing cars, but wanted to become more competitive in racing. The problem at the time was the bad quality of streets and all kinds of traffic, which included horse carriages, pedestrians, chickens, and so on. Also, race events from city to city became too dangerous, and the trend was to create permanent racetracks. Brooklands near London opened in 1907 and the Indianapolis Speedway in 1909. So also in 1909 the Automobil-, Verkehrs- und Übungsstraße GmbH was founded, in short Avus. Translated, that basically means car test track. They tried to find investors for the project, but only got successful in 1913 when they changed to a stock cooperation. So in 1913 they started building a car track parallel to the Wetzlarer Bahn, a 19-kilometer long straight railway through a forest in the southwest of Berlin. The idea of the track was to test cars at high speeds because that wasn't possible on public roads. So they wanted the straights to be as long as possible and a quick turn either side. In 1914 they were almost done, but because of the First World War the project stopped. After the war, Germany had many other problems when finishing the racetrack, and with the political instability and recession, it was impossible to find the funding to finish the track. A few years later, in 1921, they could finally finish the track because of the private investment of the famous businessman Hugo Stinnes. The track was opened on 19th of September 1921. Fritz von Opel drove the fastest lap with an average speed of 129 km per hour. The track itself was counterclockwise and a 9-kilometer long straight with a grass stripe between both directions. There was a large flat north curve with 2 grandstands and a tighter flat south curve, which is today the fuel station at the junction Spanische Allee. The track was a closed track and not a public road. After the first race, everybody was allowed to take their car to the Avus test track for a 10-mark fee, which was very expensive. But now everyone had the chance to test the top speed of their cars. To pay, you drove through the legendary gate with Benz and Continental advertisement. Remember that Mercedes and Benz were still rivals at that time. But already shortly after the opening, the first problems with the track came up. Germany was not experienced in building highly stressed and high-speed roads at that time. The track was not very grippy and bumps could reach a height of 10 centimeters, which caused many accidents. So now the car test track became also a road test track. They experimented with the foundation, different layers, compaction and road surfaces. The learning curve was steep and Germany could use the experiences for the Autobahn infrastructure later on. Now the track improved a lot and it became the #1 high-speed track. In 1924 the highest average speed was 146 km per hour. In 1928, again Fritz von Opel could reach 238 km per hour with his rocket car RAK 2, by the way, with wings either side to keep it on the ground. Race events in the 1920s happened in front of 300,000 spectators. Because of its special characteristics, the Avus was popular for record runs and special races, but the German Grand Prix usually happened at the Nürburgring, which was opened in 1927. Big investments happened for the 1937 season. The task was to reduce the space of the north turn and to increase the speed on the Avus at the same time. The solution was a huge banked north turn which was built with bricks and had an angle of 43.6 degrees. The old buildings could be removed to make space for new streets, and a new race control tower was built, now with Mercedes-Benz advertisement. Today it's a motel and restaurant. Also, they built new grandstands just next to the finish line. The highlight was then the 1937 Avus race. It was not part of the Grand Prix season, which meant that cars did not have to comply with the regulations, which is always a good thing. So Auto Union and Mercedes brought their 600 horsepower Grand Prix race cars, but this time with the additional 100 kg streamlined bodies of their record cars for highest speeds. In total there were 5 streamlined cars at the start. They had more weight, so less acceleration and cornering speed, but higher top speed. Also, their tires were enclosed and not cooled by the wind anymore, so overheating of the rear tires was a huge problem. The streamlined cars reached speeds of close to 400 km per hour on the straights, while the ones without the additional bodywork reached around 330 km per hour. Hermann Lang, later the winner of the race with an average speed of 261 km per hour, reported that during testing they made a little setup mistake on a streamlined Mercedes bodywork and his front axle was lifting and losing road contact at 380 km per hour. The fastest lap of the event drove Bernd Rosemeyer of Auto Union with 276 km per hour average speed. And remember, that's in 1937. And this record stayed for a couple of decades. For the north turn, they had to slow down to 180 km per hour, and there were two stripes to help the drivers with orientation to get through the turn. Of course, it also happened that cars went off the bank corner, which resulted in a huge jump. In the infield of the corner was space for 5,000 spectators who could watch the cars driving around them. On the inside was a deep ditch to get rid of water and to separate spectators from the track. At the end of the 1930s, a new south turn was planned and built. Because of the Second World War, it was never completed, but you can clearly see it on the map. And the embankment, including a small scale model in the forest, is still there until today. So let's discover this together. So right now we are at the Avus. This is the Avus highway you can see here, and we are at the forest where the south turn used to be. And here in the forest you see a model. This is a model in the scale 1 to 100, and this shows how the bank corner of the south corner should have looked like. And it's still in the forest here, you can still see it. So you can see that the highway is basically going this way, and the race cars would drive over here, turn around and go back. So let's take a closer look at this. So you can see very nicely the bank corner around here, and then goes all the way around there, and then it's merging again with the highway. So let's walk a bit further. You can also see the banked angle here. Then it's getting tighter and tighter. Here the model is a bit broken, but over here it's pretty well intact. And you can see this bank corner here. So this is the model of the bank corner. This is how they wanted to build it, but then the war got in the way. And over there in the forest you can see the embankment. So they built the embankment, but they didn't finish the turn. So let's go there. So we're here at the embankment, and you can see it's a pretty big hill. It's pretty steep, quite impressive. And we are now on top of the embankment. So this is the bank corner. There's a footpath around here, pretty nice walk. And you can see just how steep it is here. So an extremely tight turn, pretty high angle. That would have been a very impressive corner. And here's another great spot. So you can see the Avus, so the Autobahn over here. And you see the steep corner around here. And they would have merged back onto the long straight. And another impressive look at the steep angle of the corner here. And on the back side it's much flatter. And then we can look around here. You see that all these trees over here are pretty new, so that used to be empty. And then here the embankment is getting smaller now, and we are merging into the long straight. And now we are at the end of the bank corner. So it slopes down gently, and then we are back on the ground, and you can see how it goes straight to the long straight. And this is the infield, so you can see the embankment over there. We are basically standing in the middle of the corner right now, and the cars would drive around us. So the other embankment should be over there. So we are still in the middle of the corner, and here we are on the other side, so we can see the other embankment. You can see parts of it here. Today there's a path through here, and here you can see this massive bank corner going around here. So also here we are still in the middle of the corner, and we can see how the embankment starts over here. And then it goes into the trees. Since private people used the Avus between races already anyway, and the Avus is a great connection from the inner city to the Autobahn ring around Berlin, the racetrack was officially connected to public traffic in 1940. So let's discover what it is like to drive on the Avus today with a 100 km/h speed limit. So in this video you can see how we are driving on the main straight in opposite direction. On the left hand side is the grandstand, and on the right hand side you can see how the cars would now approach the north turn. And we are driving directly towards the Mercedes Star on the race control tower. On the left hand side you can see the tower of the exhibition center in Berlin. We are now right here in the north curve. You can see the grandstand here, which was just renovated. And this is the podium actually. And here you can see the two posts for the flags. And this is how the cars drive around this place. The actual place of the north turn is now a big parking area. Unfortunately, the legendary North Gate was destroyed in Second World War and demolished. The US Army used the embankment of the never-finished South Turn as a shooting range until 1994, and the track used the motorcycle South Turn just before the junction Hüttenweg, which reduced the length of the track from 19 kilometers to 8.3. Later, also chicanes were used to reduce speeds on the Avus. The track was shortened even more, and today it's only used as a public road. The iconic brick North Turn was removed in 1967. You can still visit the famous race control building and eat something there today. And the grandstands on the opposite side are renovated and provide space for startup companies. So I hope you liked this video, and please consider to become a B-Sport Club member for more videos like this and to support the channel.